Why is it important for people to watch this film Shocked?
Well, I think it's important to people, especially parents, or in my case, grandparent. I have three grandsons, 8, 3, and newborn, and I don't know if they'll play football. I've said this in numerous interviews or in passing with people that and it may surprise people, but I really would not encourage them to play. I
Wow.
don't know if I would necessarily discourage. Um, I always say this as well. I'd love for them to play golf.
Much safer.
Much safer. What little bit I know about concussions, which is not a great deal, I just know that what we're finding out, what we're hearing, is not good and continues to get worse and worse. Um, but that being said, uh, concussions, 1 in 5 occur from head hitting the turf.
Right.
I can speak volumes on that myself, and that may or may not surprise people. The trend has been and will continue artificial turf across the board, high schools, colleges, pro. There's a few grass fields left, but most people are going to these turf surfaces. That's fine.
Right.
But there's an underlying shock pad, if you will, that can reduce. I mean, it's hard. When you fall,
Sure.
you fall on the floor and
That
hit your head.
impact.
It's hard. That impact, the whiplash. Now, so um, it's fine if you have an artificial surface. But there's things that can be done, and I think parents need to ask questions. Look at the field as equipment.
Right.
There's no way you or I would send our son out to play tackle football without a helmet
No.
when everyone else is wearing a helmet.
Right.
Well, the field really should not be looked at any differently. But I think the typical parent just figures,
Hey, we're safe and we're not. They're
the
not
field
overthinking this.
it really doesn't matter.
Right.
As long as my kid has the equipment on.
When you mention that statistic, and it's well brought out in the documentary, that 1 in 5 of these concussions are happening with the impact to the ground itself, right? Because everybody just thinks it's helmet to helmet.
Correct.
How can they change that? How can they protect their kids, as you mentioned, when they go on these fields on the high school level? You assume at the collegiate and the pro level that the maintenance of the fields are going to be better. How can these parents be sure, or at least feel safer, that their kids are they're not being put in harm's way?
Well, I don't know if. Well, first of all, we're never going to completely get rid of concussions.
Right.
Fall off a coffee table, trip and fall on an ice skating rink. It's going to happen. I think being more active, as some parents have a tendency to do, asking the right questions, demanding more of whoever's in charge.
Sure.
A head coach may be limited in what they can do, but getting the right people on board, and I think getting the word out right now is important. That there are things that are available, there are avenues in which you can take, and in providing, because I think right now there's a tug of war between, I don't know if we want to spend this, and that may be the NFL as well, but in the long run, what's more important?
How do you feel the NFL is doing right now with concussion protocol and the way the game's changed since you retired from the game? Do you think they're doing a better job of educating the
I
player?
think they're doing better. I do think that money has been an issue, as it always has been.
Yeah.
Will all owners tear up the field, put a shock pad underneath it? I doubt it. Not right now. But if enough concussion issues come up, which they're, again, I don't, with all the safety regulations and the talk, I don't know if they can prove that concussions have gone down.
Right.
If they can make the guy smaller, slower,
That's the only way you're going to prevent it, right?
and that's not happening.
That's not realistic.
That's not happening. So I think they're doing better. But there's, there's still a ways to go.
When did you really become concerned with this? Was it during your playing days, or was it after that you said, you know what, these long-term issues that people could have from concussions, certainly the violent game that you
Mhm.
played, when did you say, I need to do something about
Well, my
this?
last play was the concussion, and the writing was on the wall at that point anyway. And it was probably the worst concussion I had. I was probably out, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 seconds.
Wow.
No pain. When I came to, I was a little bit foggy. Was again, nothing hurt, but I was a little unsure what I was doing, where I was, why the Chicago Bears were straight across from me. I mean, it was kind of an eerie feeling. And so I went to the sidelines, and when the dust started clearing, um, I thought to myself, there's never a good time to have a concussion.
Mm.
But in my 20th year, at 40, 41 years old, um, if I didn't know before, I know now that this is probably time to get out.
Wow.
Um, because the concussion talk was just starting to,
Yeah.
to build up, a head of steam. And so then of course, I retired after that year, and not long after the movie Concussion comes out. And I have to admit, when I left out of there, I thought, boy, what have I done to myself? And not taking into account what the NFL knew or doesn't know, what they're willing to reveal. I'm just talking about what I have done to long-term damage, whether it be joints, brain, because we've always seen older football players, retired guys walk and
Yeah,
hobble
sure.
around. That's just kind of part of it. You never thought about the mental
No.
side of it until recently, and what you're hearing and seeing, and it continues to grow and build. And so there's a tremendous amount of fear in, for me, and I think a lot of players of what the future holds.
And Brett, in the documentary, I mean, it's well said on your part. Like, hey, what does this get you when you're 55, 60? If you knew then what you know now, and you are the ultimate Iron Man with the consecutive game streak, started at quarterback. Would you do it all over again, knowing now what you know?
It's so easy to say whatever at this point. Um, that I would have, that I wouldn't have, that I would have retired early. Um, I really don't know. No one loved the game as much as I. No one loved to compete. No one. I don't want to say I love the physical part of it, but it was part of the challenge to overcome it each and every week and rise to the occasion. Playing with a sore knee or a sprained ankle or a broken thumb, I can't say it was fun,
Right.
but it was doable. And some people may say, "Guy's crazy." I had concussions. My ears were ringing. Fireworks would go off. A little bit of dizziness. Calling the play, the next play after my bell was rung.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times that happened. But what never crossed my mind is that this was doing long-term damage. How much and how soon will that rear its ugly head remains to be seen. But I didn't think of it that way. I didn't look at it that way, nor did anyone else,
Right.
because we thought concussions were, you get a
It's
little
part of the
dizzy.
game.
Tomorrow you'll be fine. Everything's,
Mm.
good as it was before. And that's not the case, but now we know that. And so I think I would have looked at it a lot differently, because, at 21, do you think about what it's going to be like at 50?
No,
You think
nobody
you're going to
does.
be 21 forever.
Right.
So as my career would have unfolded, I would have looked at it, I think, a lot differently.